Hey everybody, this is Travis of Black Ring Moto. So today I'm going to be replacing the front sprocket on my YouTube WR250R, going from a 13 tooth to a 14 tooth. When I bought the bike, this sprocket, this 14 tooth was on it, and I put a 13 on there to get myself a little bit, we'll say shorter first gear, usable for more tight technical trails, but the more that I ride the bike and the more that I've experimented with it, the more that I want to go back to the 14 tooth. A couple of reasons. Number one, first gear is absolutely useless on the street. I hit sixth gear at about 50 miles an hour, and so my top end suffers on the street. And also, the 13 tooth will eventually tend to tear into my swing arm, and I don't want that, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it with the original 14 tooth that was on there. So this is how you do it. So the first thing that we need to do is to prevent the rear wheel from spinning. You want the bike in neutral. Do not put it in gear. If you put it in gear, you can damage the transmission when you take the sprocket nut off. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to use the brakes to prevent that rear wheel from spinning. How I'm going to do that is push down on my brake lever and then just wedge a piece of wood or whatever that you've got in there. Give your rear wheel kind of a tug, a spin. If it's not right, get it to where it's kind of pushing down on that brake lever. Might even need to go a little bit more into here. So the next thing we're going to do is come in with an 8mm socket right here and take this sprocket guard off. So once you have your chain guard off, you're going to notice that there's these two little slots on each side of the shaft that comes out, the counter shaft. So what you need to do is take a small screwdriver or something similar, get in there and pry these out, because this is part of this nut right here. Looks like that one's broken, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a little hammer and I'm just going to tap into this and peel that out a little bit so that way we can take this nut off. Now we take our 27mm, put it on the counter shaft, and hopefully my piece of wood on the brake held. It did not. So I've got another trick I'll show you. So if the rear brake isn't working, the rear brake trick with the block of wood, you can stick another block of wood between the mud guard and the tire, which is basically the back of the swing arm right there. Now as that tire starts to turn forward, it will prevent it from moving, and that would help us with our front sprocket removal. Now that we have our block of wood wedged in between the swing arm and the tire, and we also have our block of wood on the other side of the bike on the brake, we're going to go ahead and get this nut off. Here we go. It's on there at 69 foot-pounds. Nice. The chain right here, it's not going to allow that sprocket to come all the way off. So what we have to do now is go to the back of the bike and loosen up the chain tension. So I'm not going to take this all the way off. I'm just going to get it so it's nice and loose and everything can kind of free float. All right, next for the chain tensioners. The chain tensioners, you're going to need a 10mm and a 12mm wrench. We're going to come in with the 12mm first, and we're going to back this lock nut off this way. So we got to kind of come in, loosen that up a bit. We're going to bring it just to about there maybe. So from here I'm going to grab the actual tensioner itself, bring it way in. So we'll just repeat the process on the other side. See how much chain slack that I have now? There's no tension in it. Now I can come over and take off the sprocket. It's kind of like that. Sometimes you got to sneak it out a little bit. Okay, I've got my can of brake cleaner. So I'm not really worried about getting brake clean on the chain right now, because when this is done, I'm going to clean and lube the chain anyways. But I'm just going to kind of hit these splines a little bit with some brake clean. Just get the bulk of that gunk off there. Try and sneak this in here. I'm trying not to take the chain off of the rear sprocket if I can help it. But for installing a bigger one, nope, there we go. Don't need to take it off the rear. Now we have this big fat washer that we took off. So that's going to go on. And then our nut with the little, I think they call this peening. Right there. Cool. Okay, so we're going to take our screwdriver and our hammer. We're going to come right along in here where that little section is. Give it a couple of little whacks. Get it down into there, and then give it a flat one like this. You don't need to go crazy with it, but you definitely need to make sure that it's in there. Because if this nut backs out when you're out riding, you're going to have a real bad day. Next, we're going to put our chain guard back on. So all we're going to do is we're just going to keep everything in place as it was. Start to thread in the bolts. So I'm sure that there's a torque spec for these. I don't really care about the torque spec for the chain guard. I'm just going to run them in and make them German tight or Guten tight. Okay, we'll give it a little pump it up. Make sure your kickstand is down on the other side. Fold that bad boy up and shimmy, shimmy, shake. Get that thing down. This thing's old. Okay, so to adjust the chain slack, you're supposed to have the motorcycle standing straight up, but I don't have any way to have it standing straight up, so I'm going to use a 2x4 right here and just kind of be careful to make sure that the bike doesn't tip over to the other side. One more thing that I did is I put my jack back underneath of it, but the jack is not actually touching the bike. It's just there in case the bike decides it wants to tip over to the right. So with the bike standing up and sort of supported, what I like to do is start with the chain way too loose, because then as we move these adjusters back out, it will tighten up the chain to exactly where we want it. That way we don't have to try and push the wheel back forward to try and loosen it up. So what we do is we grab our 10 mil right here and got that nice and touched on that side. So it's touching. We're going to make sure that this one is touching. And the cool thing about these WRs is they have these little notches right here. I know it's probably hard to see on the camera, but you'll see it on yours. So right now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4 notches exactly. I'm going to go around to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4 notches exactly on that side. We check our slack, way too much. So now I just have to start backing out my adjusters a little bit at a time and make sure that you go evenly on each side. Make sure we're good. Still too loose, repeat the process. Check it again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Most important thing is you want to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4 and about 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4 and about 3/4. You want to make sure that these lines line up with this little line right here in the swing arm, because if you're off right there, what that's going to do is it's going to cock the wheel left or right if these don't match on each side. So just get them to where they match. Come in here, play with your chain tension a little bit. I think that's pretty good right there. You have to remember, as your axle and your swing arm travels up and down, it's going to put tension on that chain. Now all we got to do is take our lock nuts right here on both sides and tighten those down. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain to get your wrench in here. Make sure that doesn't move. And I guess it's only like 12 foot-pounds or something like that for these lock nuts, so don't go crazy with them. All All right, I'll get this one tightened up. Last step, once you have your chain tightened exactly where you want it, and you make sure that your notches on this side are even on both sides so that your wheel is nice and straight, set your torque wrench to 90 foot-pounds and torque down your axle nut. 90 foot-pounds, good to go. We're all done. All right, everybody, that is how you change your front sprocket on your WR250R. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.